We've got ones that can see. Welcome, everybody, to today's show. Once again, we're hearing about Donald Trump running in the year 2028, which, of course, wouldn't really be running because he's told us that we would never have to vote again after the last fake election. But now Donald Trump is selling Trump 2028 hats and shirts on his official website. He's actually even selling his hat for $50 a pop, and they're not hiding what's coming in the future. They haven't been hiding it. They've been telling us for quite some time that Trump will run again and will win again. And obviously this is all brewing towards a WrestleMania type production where we could potentially see Donald Trump running against Barry Soetoro, Barack Obama. They're telling you that this whole third term with Trump, the loophole will be that he had 4 years out of office in between his two stays in the White House. So he had 4 years from 2016 to 2020. Then he was out for 4. Then he's back in. They're going to try to tell you that that's the loophole. But eventually, if they get Congress and all these people pass this notion, there's going to be something in there that will allow Barack Obama to run. You'll have your two biggest faces of each party out there, and then you start the psyops. Then you start rolling out more of this stuff about illegals crossing the border, digital IDs, voter fraud. You still hear about it. You still hear this notion that the Supreme Court and judges are rejecting the notion that someone who votes in an election has to have an ID or doesn't have to have one. It's an insane topic to even discuss. Why in the world would you have an election and then allow people who don't live in this country to vote in it? Of course, so it drives conservatives crazy, and Democrats think it's a wonderful thing because, they're convinced that it's the only way they can win the election is if they have illegals. But it's all part of the psyop, and they need to bring in the digital ID. Now, I thought that 2025, 2024 would have been the easier way to bring in the digital ID if they did all this stuff with Trump, with his fake assassination attempts, and then they told you when it looked like it was going to be a landslide that somehow he lost, that they would call for a digital ID and people would be on board. But really now, if we look at it from this standpoint, if Trump does this again in 2028 and Barack Obama is put up against him, people will be so emotionally invested that they may catch fire. Their heads may explode via or like the movie Scanners. But here, let's start with this nonsense because it's even airing on Fox about how Trump is now selling his 2028 hats.
Let's focus briefly and lastly now on 2028. Live picture there at the White House. This piece of merch, piece of swag, if you will, it's getting a lot of attention online. Take a look at this. Eric Trump, President Trump's son, posting a photo of this red T-shirt there that says Trump 2028 in parentheses, rewrite the rules. Fox has this, that the Trump organization is back in the spotlight, this time with a bold new piece of headwear. And you see there outerwear. The official Trump store, the online retailer, launched a red Trump 2028 hat priced at $50 and made in America. And this shirt as well, the Trump Organization store selling the hat and the shirt there. So the rollout comes as the president, who is currently serving his second term, has once again teased the idea of extending his presidential legacy past 2028. So some are reading it that way. Others are reading it the other way, that he may seek a third term, which is, of course, unconstitutional. And it does not allow for that in the Constitution. And so in a March interview with NBC News, he said, no, I'm not joking. He says there are methods which you could do it about a third term. However, the constitutional catch in all of this is the 22nd Amendment. It bars any U.S. president from being elected more than twice. You see there, the Trump War Room putting this out, a photo of Eric Trump wearing that very hat. They say rocking the new Trump 2028 hat, exclamation point. So as you would imagine, this is getting a lot of attention online. Eric Trump there, he's doubling down. He posted this photo, modeling the hat and promoting the new merchandise. Among the replies was from the crypto betting platform Polymarket with a simple wide-eyed emoji. Other users chimed in with mixed reactions like, quote, the shirt doesn't mention which Trump it is, with a wink-faced emoji. Also, another user commented, "Not going to happen. We're MAGA, but we draw the line on this. Start looking now for someone to get voted in." Others said, "Nice troll, bro," to Eric Trump. So, the Trump store getting some new merchandise come 2028. I'll let all of you watching read into it for what you will.
So, of course, in addition to 2028, why stop there? Elon Musk retweeted out Trump 2032. Why not? Why not just keep putting Trump in office? And all these people who are supposed to be nationalists are supposed to love the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and how we have to constantly put new people in Congress and vote them. And they love all that. But now they're okay with somebody who would literally be a dictator if they continually stay in power. But this was all done psychologically over the last decade or so with the things that the government has deliberately done, from things like the LGBT at the White House lawn to all of these generals in the military. They were showing you these trans generals, to the pronoun training in the army. They put all these stories out there by design to drive people insane so that when Trump got back in, that nobody would ever want him to leave, because nobody would ever want to go back to what it just was. If you think that these people are trying to get votes based on how they act and the stuff they present, you think again. You don't think that Democrats knew when they were supposedly trying to get elected that the stuff they were doing was extremely insane? Of course they did. Where they're telling you that we're going to put rules in place that tell you that if your 5-year-old decides that it's the opposite gender, they have the right to do that and have the parents lose custody of the child if they disagree with it. All of these things were done really, really deliberately to lead to this, what we're potentially going to see in 2028. But we're not even, 6 months into Trump's new term, we're already talking about his next term. So that tells you how crazy it is. And of course, Elon Musk retweeting out Trump 2032. But you may remember, I talked about this a couple of months ago. If you pay attention to the narratives that are out there, they're using these narratives to condition you, to prepare you for all of this stuff. Donald Trump will run again in 2028. Steve Bannon says, as you saw, Eric Trump wearing the hat already, sitting at one of his offices. Here's just some of the predictive programming, if you haven't seen it yet, where they're constantly talking about Trump running again, Trump telling you you'll never need to vote again, and teasing a third term. Really, this has been going on since his first term. And now we're talking about the third term, his first couple of months into his second term. Insane stuff, but they clearly have something big planned.
So the only thing that you're not going to like talking about, we'll talk about first. I'm watching CPAC, and they put up a poll of potential, next generation, right? Post-Trump. You are second on the list after the VP as people getting the nod at CPAC to be president. A lot of people were surprised by this. My first question, you have anything to do with putting your name in that list because you have presidential ambitions?
No. And President Trump, I'm a firm believer that President Trump will run and win again in 2028. So I've already endorsed President Trump. A man like this comes along once every century if we're lucky. We've got him now. He's on fire, and I'm a huge supporter. Want to see him again in 2028.
And obviously, anybody who doesn't like what you say but judges it as a function of a lack of intelligence doesn't know anything about you. I don't make that mistake. You're a smart guy. He's term limited. How do you think he gets another term?
We're working on it. I think we'll have a couple of alternatives. Let's say that. We'll see. We'll see what the definition. We'll see what the definition of term limit is.
All right. Well, so you're talking about litigating this issue, because I don't want people to listen to our interview and say Bannon's cooking up an insurrection. Bannon is cooking up. You know what I mean? I want people to get a straight take on where your head is. What are you suggesting?
Chris, as you know, I've had greater long shots than this. When we supported President Trump after the election, I realize you don't believe the election in 2020 was stolen. We do. We fervently believe that. When President Trump went back to Mar-a-Lago on January 20th, 2021, he was the longest of long shots to return to the White House. We said that day in our podcast and doubled down, having President Trump's back, that he was coming back not just to win the primary, he would win the White House, and we had to get organized and drive that victory, and also start working on all the policies, what's called Project 2025 or the America First Policy Institute, but all those different think tanks that started putting in the policies that you're seeing today in what we call flood the zone or days of thunder or however you want to describe it. But this is many years in the making. So we've had greater long shots than Trump 2028, and we've got a lot of stuff we're working on there. We're not prepared to talk about it publicly, but in a couple of months, I think we will be.
Could a resolution to amend the U.S. Constitution allow President Trump and other future presidents a third term in office? Interesting question. During a rally in Las Vegas today, Trump jokingly mentioned serving a third term. This comes just days after a House Republican is seeking to pave the way for the president to do just that.
I didn't make any stops along the way. It will be the greatest honor of my life to serve not once, but twice, or 3 times, or 4 times. Headlines from the fake news. Now it will be to serve twice. For the next 4 years, I will not rest. I will not yield. And together we will not fail. We will win, win, win. We will bring back the American dream. We're going to bring it back. It will be the greatest honor of my life to serve not once, but twice, or 3 times, or 4 times. And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm not Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to.
So obviously, if you think about what we've gone through and how politics has become so just, it's so theatrical. It takes political theater to new levels, the stuff that we've seen. If you look back and you think about elections where you had guys like Mitt Romney running, nobody cared. You think back to, they cared a little bit, but not like this. This is just, it's the constant topic. It's the constant theme. They get you so emotionally invested, which is why they're talking about it already, right? They're emotionally getting you invested already, building this up year after year after year to a point where we're going to reach 2028, and it's going to be this huge WrestleMania-like circus where you have Trump and you have Obama. You have these 2 guys that go all the way back to the birth certificate. Is he a real citizen or not? We could bring all the narratives back together. Why not have Obama run with his running mate Hillary Clinton? That would make this absolute circus even more insane, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did that. So if we get to a point here where they start talking about Congress actually voting on this, Trump passing legislation to allow himself to run again, you could bet your bottom dollar that the loophole that'll be in there will be somehow, some way that Barack Obama can be the one who runs against Trump, because they've built them both up as the face of each political party. But the irony of it all is that they're working together. Kind of like we saw at Jimmy Carter's funeral. They looked awfully chum-chum, sitting right by one another, not just sitting by one another. For the people out there that make excuses and say, oh, they had to sit by each other. They were presidents, right? 4 presidents. So they had to sit directly next to one another. Well, of course, that doesn't make any sense. But even if you want to take that belief and you want to say, they had to sit by one another. They weren't just sitting by one another. They were chit-chatting. They were laughing. For 2 guys who openly tell you that the people who follow their party and follow them specifically are terrorists, like all of, Obama's been talking about how Trump supporters, MAGA supporters are terrorists. Then the 2 of them sit together and you don't think that they're working together. And all this buildup could be leading towards this huge, huge, huge production, which would be the 2028 selection, because of course your vote doesn't count. And then when they pull you and push you and it's a tug of war back and forth and you hear psyops and you hear more stuff about ballot boxes blowing up, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to be able to come in and talk about a digital ID once and for all to determine who the real president is. And since you're so invested in the elections and you think that they're actually real when they're not, you'll go along with it because you will want to do whatever you can to support your party. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to global communism. So Trump is selling a 2028 hat. I mean, this is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in my life, to be honest with you. I mean, if you think about this and you think about politics over the years, just imagine, go back to like Jimmy Carter or go back to Richard Nixon. And they're talking about, when it would come closer to their term ending, they would talk about running again, right? Then think about if they were just suddenly talking about running again for the next 50 years. Well, American citizens would have went nuts no matter what party was saying it. They'd say, absolutely not. You're not changing the rules around here. But now, of course, the Republicans are on board. They're all about the Constitution, everything else. They call themselves 1776. But, oh, it's fine for Trump to stay in office longer and longer and longer, right? These people don't realize what a psychosis they're actually in. So pay attention to this narrative because we're going to hear more about it. It's going to be this slow thing as it's continued to build up. And eventually, maybe in the year 2027, they'll actually come out, pass a bill where it allows Donald Trump to run again. And then you could see this big WrestleMania-like production. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.